Luke is considered the writer of Acts of the Apostles in Luke. In fact, we call it Luke Acts because he starts Luke with the announcement to Mary that she is going to bear a son. And then in the gospel today, we conclude with Jesus ascending into heaven. And in Acts, he's with them 40 days. In Luke, he ascends right after the resurrection. So if you're totally confused, welcome. We must remember that the Bible, for Catholics, is a book of faith, not of facts. And Luke was writing to two different groups of people in Luke, in his Gospel, and Acts. So we take it as it is. Did he go right away, or did he wait around for 40 days appearing to the disciples? It doesn't matter. The whole idea is that if we look at the journey of faith, we see from the Gospel of Luke at the very beginning that Jesus became one of us. And of course, he taught, he cured, and he did all kinds of wonderful things, telling the early disciples about who his Father is. And of course, on Good Friday, they were totally devastated because they thought he would be with them. But he's gone. Now what do we do? And of course, then a few days later, he rises from the dead, and there's great rejoicing. But they're still confused because they don't know what this all means yet. And then, of course, then he appears to them over a course of 40 days, and he begins to tell them, especially since we've been reading the Gospels during this Easter season, love one another. And remember what I taught you while I was here. Remember that I gave you faith, I gave you hope, and I taught you to love. And of course, now we see him ascending to heaven, but it's a different kind of leaving. They're not sad because they know, they have begun to catch on that he really wanted to let them know that he would never leave them. And of course, what he's saying is that the Holy Spirit will come upon us and give us a guidance for the rest of our lives. You know, one of the things we find in our faith is that I think many times we're much like the disciples. You know, oh, wonderful, wonderful. And then now what? I'm in trouble. I have a sickness. I've lost my job. There's a devastating event that's happened in my life. And we think Jesus is gone, like on Good Friday. But then we're reminded by the resurrection that he never left us, that he's always with us. And in that time, I'm sure we've all vacillated. Are we alone, or is Jesus with us? And then he keeps reassuring us, especially in the Acts of the Apostles. I am with you forever, but I'm going home to my Father, but I'm not going to leave you alone. First off, I'm going to prepare a place for you so that when you die, we will join him in heaven and sit at that table in heaven. And then, of course, the disciples in today's reading are very happy because they know it's not the end. And when the Holy Spirit descends upon them, they finally begin to understand a little bit better. Yes, it's not over. And the commission is to go out to the world and proclaim the good news. So if we have our ups and downs, so do the disciples. So that shouldn't get us down when we're down. We should know that there's always hope. And I think when we have to remind ourselves that when we were baptized, the Holy Spirit was called down upon us to help strengthen us and guide us through our lives. At our confirmation, we see the Holy Spirit come down upon us once again, and we're commissioned to go forth and proclaim Jesus is the light of Christ. At the ordination to priesthood, we're all lying on the floor as the bishop prays for us that the Holy Spirit will come upon us and help us to proclaim the gospel with great joy, to forgive sins, to celebrate the Eucharist, and to bring hope and care to all God's people. So that's what it's all about. It's not about whether he rose right away or spent 40 days. It's that he never left us. And we see that presence constantly when Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there. Especially, too, when we celebrate the Eucharist. Jesus is present, feeds us so that we may go out and be strengthened by the Eucharist to proclaim that gospel. So let us continue the work of the early disciples and create an atmosphere where we welcome people, we proclaim the word, not necessarily by words, but by our actions. And above all, as the Gospels have said through the Easter season, because we love one another. And that was one of the great things that the early people, especially in Greece, saw, how much the disciples loved one another, and that drew them to the church. It wasn't the words of Paul necessarily, that helped, or Barnabas or the other disciples. It was because they loved, they shared, and they cared for each other. So let us remind ourselves that it's about loving one another in such a way that everybody feels that they're welcome into the church. And then we know that Jesus is with us, whether for 1 day or for 40 days. Not for that, but all our lives.
Thank you for joining us today. Our digital ministry provides a valuable service to parishioners and visitors alike. Daily and Sunday Mass, funerals, weddings, and fireside chats, among other things, can be seen locally, throughout the country, and even the world, in real time or at one's convenience. If you would like to support this effort, please go to olphglenview.org. Click on the gold Donate button and then the Sunday Giving icon to make a contribution on our secure online giving portal. We sincerely appreciate your past and ongoing support. Thank you for helping us continue this ministry. God bless.